What did you say your name was?
Chimer.
That's it. You're hired.
You're the man we need?
Chimer was traveling to the biggest city in the region. His journey was safe and was soon to end. Some minor accidents had happened along the way, but these accidents weren't directly affecting Chimer. His peculiar appearance made the people run away, screaming, hide, or just gape at him. I think 2 or 3 people got a heart attack when they saw him. I'm sure about the young man who turned pale in a few seconds when he saw Chimer, and the carter who wasn't sparing his oxen's health for the sake of his cart's speed was so mesmerized that his cart flew off the path and right into a tree.
Watch where you're going, instead of watching me, speeding like he's in a race.
Safe was a good word to describe Chimer's journey. As I said, all the bad things were happening around him and not to him. He felt sorry for what was happening to the people, but he couldn't do anything about that.
What about plastic surgery?
Mind your own business. Chimer is the child of free love between species. He is 1/8 dragon, calx troll, elf, goblin, dwarf, orc, silver fairy, and human.
The intercourse between these fantasy creatures should be prohibited. Who would see anything attractive in a calx troll? And how on earth will Silver Fairy and a dragon have intercourse of any kind? She fits in 1 palm and he's as big as a mountain.
Well, dragons can take the form of humans depending on how old they are and how strong their magic is. For the most powerful, that's a child's play and can go on for a lifetime like this. But fairies have it bad.
How come?
They can't take human form, except in the most extraordinary case. If a fairy falls in love with a human, she turns into a human herself, but she lives for a very short period of time.
Bummer. Weren't you going to write a funny fantasy story?
You're the one making me give explanations to everything, and you're still complaining. Now let's go back to Chimer.
May 1,000 boggles drag them to hell.
Chimer could use this curse freely, for the boggles were one of the few creatures to which he wasn't related.
The wonderful sunny morning, which so pleased Chimer, was spoiled quickly along with his mood.
Chimer had climbed to the top of the hill from where he could see the road ahead, and the miles-long line of cars between him and the city gate.
I'm sick of these rednecks. Everyone from the village has packed his junk and set off for the big city.
Should we remind him that he's also left the village for the big city?
We better keep silent. He's in a bad mood, and I don't want him to take it out on us. And besides, he believes he'll return to his village someday.
No one walks anymore. Since magicians modified oxen and created a new more sufficient sort, eats less and carries more, everyone has bought an oxen and carts. The cart maker's profession is the most popular now. Even if one doesn't understand a thing about carts, he's convinced he's cart maker. He takes out a loan from the treasury, rent a house on the main street, pay tons of money to a glazier to make him glass walls, gives an arm or a leg for a city painter to cover his cart. And a year ago, they didn't give any respect to these painters. Cart makers are so many that the prices of cars have dropped, so that people would buy more. Soon, everyone will be able to afford a king's carriage.
Now is the moment to note that while thinking all these things, Chimer was also walking towards the city. He wasn't simply staying in one place on some hill.
So let us also proceed in walking and not simply stay on some hill.
Parents would pay any cost for their children to become apprentices of a cart maker. It's popular these days and people consider it prosperous. But eventually, the market will get saturated and there will be more people practicing this profession than necessary. I hope we don't end up turning into a nation of cart makers. I wonder if any of these enterprising craftsmen has ever thought that someday there will be no more people left to buy and everyone will have a cart of his own.
Chimer didn't want to admit it to himself, but he had noticed that people would throw away their old carts for a new and shinier one, and unfortunately there will always be people to buy. He frowned. He thought of all those carts left behind, deserted on the roads or cramped in people's backyard. Before, when a cart had been damaged,
People would call a cart maker to fix it, or would lie under the bent axles until they fixed the cart themselves. Now people leave their cart where it was broken and run to the shiny glass cases to buy a new one. They only need a motive.
As he was pondering, Chimer had reached the utmost cart of the whole line. He was walking in the grass parallel to the line of carts. The people on the road kept glancing at Chimer. Often they would shrug frightened, some just stared at him. A man screamed in a heat under the bench he was sitting on. There were whole families in some of the carts. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Young delicate maidens fainted at the look of him, but Chimer didn't pay any attention. He was used to such things.
Despite all, the one-eighth cock straw in him was proud of his demonstration of power. And another 8 deep down in Chimer was quietly sorrowing. A small, friendly and sociable silver fairy always ends up without any friends. Chimer's stream of thought continued.
How I would like to see them when the pasture and oats for their numerous rapidly multiplying magically modified oxen become insufficient. What will happen then? Oxen can live without grass. They will all die, they will be slaughtered, and they aren't even a good to eat.
And if he had said anything like that to one of the people on that road, they would have called him crazy. Unless, of course, they're afraid of him. And Chimer can be scary.
Not to mention, they never ask you if you're a qualified driver or not. As long as you have money, you can easily get a cart. All kinds of incomes have four-wheel now, all perfectly immune to fear and common sense.
Come on, natural girl, move it. Walk faster or we will lose sight of the main hero. Don't just stand there, move!
I have to stop and write everything down every once in a while. You try walking and writing at the same time. And besides, I don't want you complaining about how my handwriting looked like a hieroglyphic of a long-dead civilization. I don't want to miss anything important either.
I think you just missed something important. The main character